Good evening, all. My name is Lindsay, and today we're going to look at text complexity, addressing key variables to help students succeed in task-based learning. First, I'll start you off with an intro. What is text complexity? It's a sequencing method that helps task designers implement more interaction, greater attention to uptake, and learning of information provided in the input to task performance in simpler tasks that scale up learning to mimic the real world. Research examining the role of individual learner differences such as schemata, levels of anxiety, cognitive abilities is becoming more key, as are the types of tasks, also known as the mode, such as oral or written language, that learners are asked to engage in. So what is the puzzle that I'm looking at in my research? I'm looking at what are the variables that students bring to complex tasks and what sequences are recommended in complex tasks to scaffold for students. So we're going to be looking at this question through our learner Jean, or Jean, I'm not sure because I don't speak French, I speak Spanish. So who is Jean and what's her English language background? So she's from Central Africa. She studied English for 6 years there, starting in 7th grade, and most of her English study was grammar and listening. And currently she's 21 and a community college student, but she speaks English mostly in school, and it is not known if she speaks English with friends outside of school. It is known that she only speaks French at home. How does this research relate to Jean? The research paper explores how the varying tasks affected the complexity of her language usage and suggests options to sequence tasks for optimal success of production for learners. So knowing what we do about Jean as an English language learner, what variables does she bring to the tasks, and how do the tasks affect how we judge her learner language? So here's some of the data that I looked at and a discussion. I looked at comparing the retail jigsaw and comparison tasks and the amount of concrete nouns and abstract nouns in the 3 tasks. So the language during the retail yielded 18 concrete nouns and 0 abstract. However, during jigsaw you saw a much better ratio, which was 7 to 1. And in comparison, it was even over twice as better with a 3 to 1 ratio from concrete to abstract. Then between the narrative and the written tasks, I looked at descriptive language in each, and there was a huge difference in complexity of language for this learner in particular. So she used much more descriptive language, she used a wider variety of sentence structures, and she repeated herself many times using and then, and then, and then in the oral task, whereas in the written task she was much more cohesive and used a wider variety of transition words. So what I immediately saw was that tasks that demanded complex thinking, they demand complex thinking, they will elicit complex thinking. So the retail task was a scaffolded exercise that was semi-rehearsed. So that is why you saw some good language there with her, and lots of language and lots of variety of different concrete nouns and everything. But we didn't see as many abstract words. We saw 0. Another thing occurred to me during this is that, in my research, was that what makes tasks more complex is taking planning time away, and that was something that we didn't know during our time with Jean and with their learners, is we didn't know how much prep time they had for the writing task, for the comparison or jigsaw, and so it's hard to decide how complex we know that the tasks became more complex because of the type of tasks that they were pedagogically, but we don't know if they were scaffolded up and sequenced to be more cognitively demanding as far as planning time, which is one of the major